And away we go. Happy Monday night to all in Cowboys Nation. If you're a fish head, 65,000 strong almost. Okay, we are being forced by the media to have to do it again. We have to do it with Russell Wilson. We have to do it with Andrew Luck. And we have to do it with Dak Prescott. What are we talking about? We're talking about classroom, ballroom, trying to develop some joint understanding of how the NFL world works. Football, finance, and other things that, if they don't go your way, begin with F. I'm Mike Fisher, your trusty and trusted reporter. This is the Fishbowl. That is the Star. The plan, by the way, as OTAs are rolling, Thursday is when there'll probably be 12 or 15 of us media members that get to be a part of that thing. Always an honor and a privilege. Thank you, Cowboys. And Bree Amaranthus and Richie Witt and myself will all be a part of that. And then we will, from inside the Star, let you know what's going on. That's right, Jason B. It'll be the School of Fish. Michael Cox, Uncle Fish Premium, classroom, bar room, and ballroom sometimes, but mostly bar room. This is a classroom and a bar room. I learn from you. Maybe you learn from me. And then sometimes we hit each over the heads with pool sticks, cues, whatever you professionals call them. So it's Dak, it's dangerous, and it's Andrew Luck. And I'm going to begin with a Mike Florio piece at profootballtalk.com. I'm not trying to joust with anybody. I'm not trying to make enemies with anybody. I just feel obliged when these things come up. And listen, the Washington Commanders tampering with Andrew Luck, that's kind of a big deal. The Denver Broncos working on an exit strategy on Russell Wilson, that's kind of a big deal. The Cowboys needing to start over, scrap the DAK thing and just start over. And this is an acclaimed football website with, I don't know how many, I don't know, billions of readers. I don't know. And Mike Florio, who, by the way, sidebar, I'm an admirer of part of what he's done. He obviously has a law degree and then decided years ago, I think I want to do football. And he has built for himself a fantastic enterprise. I'll say something else about Florio that I like. Like, I get up to go pee at 4 a.m. and look at my phone, making sure I don't drop my phone into the toilet. And I look on Twitter, and by God, there's Mike Florio. Now, he's not breaking news. He's doing aggregation, or he's writing his snarky opinions about the news. But, I mean, it's 4 a.m., and he's going. And at this point in Mike Florio's career, he didn't have to do that. He could hire 3 more writers and never write again. So I admire that about him. But I feel we're obliged to do certain things a certain way. Maybe it's just because I'm old. You, as a Cowboy fan, you do not. I ask you to bring something of intellect to the table, but you don't always have to. I ask you to make sure your opinions are fact-based, but you're not obliged to do that. If you want to punch your hand through your TV screen because the Cowboys threw an interception, it's your hand, it's your TV. I don't get to do that as part of my job. ESPN should not be doing that. And since Mike Florio has an opinion on how everybody else should be doing their business, I guess I can give mine. I don't think Mike helps himself by doing this. So here's what we've done today with quarterbacks. The first one is with Andrew Luck. Jim Irsay, who's goofier than hell owner of the Indianapolis Colts, maybe the goofiest owner in all of the NFL, suggested that the Washington Commanders called Andrew Luck to try to bring him out of retirement. Now, in fairness to the goofy Mr. Irsay, it was Ron Rivera, who I think it was last year, said, we looked under every rock. We called everybody. We called everybody who'd ever played quarterback, anybody on earth. And so that certainly could have given Mr. Irsay the inkling that he might call Andrew Luck. Now, logically, how long's Andrew Luck been retired? I didn't even look it up. How long's Andrew Luck been gone? Somebody, will you look that up for me? Is it 5 years? Mike says, Josh Corson, for your illiterate comments and then try attacking me. I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe you're talking to a different Mike. Oh, it's Mike Beasy. Listen, guys, a reminder, we don't really do that. We're classroom, ballroom, barroom. Classroom, barroom. I'm the bartender. I'm also the bouncer. If you have a problem, you come to me. Don't you guys yelling at each other and do any good. Don't do that. We're above that. So the Washington Post reported that the investigation has been done and that the Commanders are going to be cleared because there's no evidence that they tampered with Andrew Luck. And Florio, God bless him, writes, that's not good enough for me. How do I know the Washington Post did it right? Jesus, Mike, with all due respect, you're trying to teach journalism lessons to the Washington Post? You're shitting me. Now, you could investigate it yourself, but instead, the Washington Post investigated it. You think the Washington Post can handle Watergate, but can't handle Andrew Luck? Dude, simmer down. I know everything's suspicious and everything's conspiratorial and everything's got to be snarky. It's not a story. The Washington Post says it's not a story. That's good enough for me. What do we think? The Washington Post conspired with Dan Snyder? I bet you they didn't. Since they're not friends. Next, we go to Seattle / Denver. And Dan Graziano, who unlike Florio, again, Florio's doing a different thing. And journalism isn't, he's kind of done his own thing. And again, it's kind of cool, but it's not journalism. Dan Graziano, who I don't know personally, I'm sure he's a wonderful guy, but I know his reputation and I respect his reputation. He wrote that the Denver Broncos, if things start not working out with Russell Wilson again, will be looking for an exit strategy. Now, as you guys know, and again, this is going to apply to Dak Prescott and the Cowboys in a minute, if you'll bear with me for just a moment. As you guys know, I do not profess to be anything that I am not. So a lot of my salary cap information comes from calling people who actually run salary caps in the NFL for teams. Okay. When I want a scouting related information on a player, I call a scout or a coach. That's the journalistic advantage I have. I don't have the benefit of having played in the NFL. I do have the benefit of when ESPN reports that the Broncos are working on an exit strategy to get out from Russell Wilson. I do have the wherewithal to go, wait a minute, ESPN. Like I said the other day, remember when your elementary school teacher used to tell you with her red ink scribble in your margins, show your work in math class? ESPN, show your work. ESPN writes, if Russell Wilson struggles the way he did in 2020, the Broncos are going to be looking for an exit strategy. That's a great idea. Just like you might think dump Dak is a great idea, which we'll get to in a minute. But what about show your work? You want to dump Russell Wilson now? Do you realize, ESPN, that would mean the Broncos, if they dumped Russell Wilson now, would have $107 million in dead money. They could barely operate as a franchise. All right, let's dump him later. We believe, I think, the easiest way, and I use that word advisedly, easiest path, you make him a post-June first cut next year and get a load of this. Even then, the Broncos would be bogged down with $35.5 million in dead cap money for 2024 and $50 million more in dead money for 2025. That is untenable. You could not field your football team and do that and win. The media is playing too loose with the numbers here. The Broncos, in addition to giving 3 players, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, they gave him a 5-year, $245 million extension when they came to Denver. And the plan was that he was going to help them win football games. And that needs to be the strategy. There is no exit strategy that is as good as that one. ESPN, by the way, and then I'll get to Dak right now. ESPN also writes, I wonder if Sean Payton is wondering, what did I get myself into? Dan, ESPN, what do you mean? He signed on with Russell Wilson's Broncos on purpose, knowing full well the ramifications. What do you mean you wonder if he knows what he got himself into? Of course he knows what he got himself into. He just signed on to do it. It's kind of like saying, I wonder if Jerry Jones knows what he got himself into when he signed Dak Prescott. Of course he does. That doesn't mean everything's peachy with the Cowboys, the contract, and Dak Prescott. Everything's not peachy. He had a wildly inconsistent year last year with interceptions as the centerpiece of the problem, and all the interceptions weren't his fault, but they were his. Mike Florio writes, maybe it's time for the Cowboys to start over. What do you mean? Howell, Dak's an overpaid, underachieving bum. Wait. And let you finish your sentence. But Dallas has nothing better. Even if you think the first part of that sentence, and that's not a very responsible thing to think, but you get to be a fan. The second part is the truth. Johnny Baker, what quarterback available would Mike Florio plug in for Dak? Now we're getting somewhere. Now you guys, instead of pissing on each other's tennis shoes, are starting to focus on the job here. Paul Gale, I'm not talking about politics. Chucky, not talking about politics. Dude, the guy or gal who covers high school girls volleyball at the Washington Post is quite likely a more qualified journalist than a guy who's a lawyer. Don't bring your politics here. That's not the point. And you know it's not. Magnolia, Texas. I'm curious what kind of new deal Dak will get. Oh, I think you know. And I don't think you're going to like it. Until Dak Prescott helps the Cowboys contend in a much more serious way for a Super Bowl, or even have to win the Super Bowl. Josh Fish, you're a very good person to broadcast our Dallas Cowboys news, my brother. Thank you. Magnolia, Wilson will be much better this season. He couldn't hardly not be. Dak Prescott will be much better this season because he couldn't hardly not be. When Dak, after the season, said, I guarantee you I won't have that number again of interceptions, I'm like, no shit, Sherlock. I guarantee you won't either, because it would be almost impossible. It would be almost impossible to do that again. Israel, Fish, you make Russell Wilson a post-June 1st cut. No. It's $107 million dead money. No. Aren't you listening? I'm trying to help us here. So now let's go into the Cowboys football and finance and facts. And I wrote this story at cowboyssi.com, where I'd really appreciate it. You let me down today. I don't think enough of you went and read it today. Would you? I need 65,000 people to go read Dallas basketball. I'm sorry, cowboyssi.com today. Maybe that's why you're so confused. cowboyssi.com. Okay? Get out your number 2 pencil and let's do this exercise together. The headline on my story, my column, is Cowboys should start over and dump Dak Prescott, suggests Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio. But how? The Cowboys and Dak have made their bed together. It is their intention to sleep in it together. The quarterback has 2 years remaining on his current deal, $160 million. But there is a $60 million, $59.4 million cap hit slated for 2024. And so to avoid that, an extension is coming, because it will be really hard to do football business if you have a $60 million cap hit on one guy, no matter how good he is. Doesn't matter if it's Patrick Mahomes. $60 million cap hit will make it hard for you to do other business. So you create an extension, which the Cowboys always plan to do. Unless, that is, you take the advice of Mike Florio, who's been kind enough to offer to the Cowboys both his football expertise, ahem, and his cap expertise, ahem. One more time, I'm going to say this because I don't want you to parse what I'm saying about Florio and misinterpret it. I admire what he's created. I admire his work ethic. He's got a style all his own. But he insists here that Prescott is not one of the short list franchise quarterbacks. That's a football opinion that he writes as if it's etched in stone fact. We can debate that, and we can take a minute right now to debate that. Is Dak one of the better quarterbacks in football? And while Florio says he's clearly not, and while you may say he clearly is, I'm giving it to you straight. I don't know. I don't know if he is. He has been at times. The fact of Dak Prescott last year is there was plenty of times like he looked like the 5th best quarterback in football. And there was other times when he looked like the 25th best quarterback in football. That's a fact. I'd like for him to somehow elevate himself to being Patrick Mahomes. He can't. He won't. Not where there's a consistent level of near brilliance. That's hard to do. Is the public unfair to Dak Prescott? They are when they forget to include Josh Allen in all the exact same conversations, because Josh Allen and Dak Prescott have done all the exact same things. And I think Josh Allen's terrific. Joey Stewart, you understand where we're going here. Mike Thompson, the question is, can Dak bring another championship to Dallas? The answer is yes. You get to have that opinion. My answer to that is, I don't know. Anthony, Buffalo versus Dallas. Fish, you know the deal. Different monster. No, it's not. They're the exact same. The Buffalo Bills and the Dallas Cowboys are exactly the same in almost every way, except Dallas has more fans and Buffalo's fans are fewer but drunker. That's the only difference. They get 53 roster spots. They get the same amount of cap room. All the same stuff. Devin, quarterbacks worse than Dak have won Super Bowls. Therefore, logically, Dak can win a Super Bowl. If Joe Flacco can win a Super Bowl, Dak can win a Super Bowl. Anthony, is Buffalo a marketing company and a football team? No. Anthony, you can't steal my joke and use it against me. That's illegal. Robert Wright, Allen has gone further in the playoffs than Dak. That's true. You got me. Ask Buffalo fans how happy they are that they lost a home game last year in the divisional round to Cincinnati after the life and death situation with Damar Hamlin that should have and could have inspired them to beat the very team they were playing on the night when he went down. Larry Mack, would Buffalo trade Josh for Dak? Never. Absolutely not. So let's go with this fantasy world or what I believe to be a fantasy world, that it's clear that Dak is not a franchise quarterback, which is what Florio's saying. Let's go with Florio's next point, that the Cowboys, the question must be, should they just start over? Should the Cowboys just start over, which means dump Dak? I guess, because what else does start over mean? Let me help us out here. To Florio, it apparently means, among other things, to live with the present cap hit, 2023, it's $27 million. Okay, let's make sure we understand that point. Dak's cap hit this year is $27 million. That's peanuts. You could leave that be. But if you're going to leave it be and start over, then you also have to leave be his cap hit in 2024 of $59.4 million. And guys, if Dak Prescott is left, if you leave it alone, because you're going to start over, because you're going to dump him, and the 2024 Dallas Cowboys cap has a $60 million hit on one player, you will not be able to build your roster. It's suicide. Now, here's one more thing. Let's assume that in 2023, Dak plays well, which, by the way, is completely viable. Let's assume in 2024, at the age of 30, he will turn 31 that spring, that he plays really well. That the 2024 Dak Prescott's really good. And you've made the decision to dump him? You know what'll happen. If a 31-year-old Dak Prescott, who's pretty good, hits the open free agent market, he will be, whether it's with the Dallas guy, he will be the highest paid quarterback in the history of football if Dak Prescott is a free agent in 2 years. Do people not see this? Kenneth Easley with a $5 pitch into the brief fund. I don't think it would matter. Fields, Mahomes, Burrow playing for the Cowboys, different pedestal, different prestige, different demands. And that, if the guy who made the point said Buffalo is different from Dallas, the demands from the media are different. Not the demands from the fans, though, Kenneth. Bills fans want it just like you do. But not even Josh Allen moves the national media dial, the meter, the way Dak does. But if we're going to write about Dak on a national level, don't we have to get the facts right? Isn't there an obligation to make sure we get the facts right? That if you say dump Dak, leave it be, start over, you're going to live with a $60 million cap hit next year. And then Prescott at 31, then your commitment to him shrivels up and dies. So now, I ask this of you, and a couple of you saying, Fish, I don't understand why we're having this conversation. Doesn't everybody understand what you said to open this conversation, which is the Cowboys and Dak have made their bed and now they have to sleep in it? Apparently they don't. Because there's still many of you that are saying, hey, Dak sucks. So fine. Dump Dak, start over. Allow Prescott to go free after 2024. And then comes the start over plan. Let's work together on this. What's the start over plan? Let's say that Florio's right. And let's say that the handful of you that are just going with the Dak sucks. All right. A.V. Clark is correct, and that's why we do this. No, not everyone does understand it. Obviously, not even Mike Florio understands it. At Pro Football Talk, not even Dan Graziano at ESPN understands it. They don't understand it. Billy Sandridge, why is there a rumor that Hopkins is coming to Dallas? There isn't. Thanks for the question. They don't understand it. Omar, I prefer Cooper Rush all the way. Then you're not a football guy, Omar, but I love you. You're one of my 64,000 favorite friends. But if you think Cooper Rush is a better football player than Dak Prescott, then you don't know very much about football. I say that lovingly. But there's your plan. Dump Dak and replace him with Cooper Rush. Okay. You think Cooper Rush is going 12-5 next year? Here's Florio and his solution. Draft a new quarterback. Find a veteran starter. Do whatever you got to do to stop the funhouse ride that has become zero fun, sir, for this team. I think he's trying to be funny and quoting from the Denzel Washington movie, Remember the Titans. Again, with all due respect to different people's writing talents and skills, that doesn't make any sense to try to tell a Remember the Titans joke in the middle of a news story on Dak Prescott's comment. It's confounding to me, but he's his own editor. So what are you going to do? So that's the solution. If you have a quarterback that hasn't won a Super Bowl, the solution is, Florio says, just find a better one. Oh, let's find a better one. Dean Graham, $5 pitch in. The only starter I would be for, but not hoping for, is to suck and draft the next Manning. Hang tight. Believe me, I got you covered. Oh, just find a new quarterback. Jesus, why? Mike, why haven't these teams that haven't won Super Bowls in recent years ever thought of that? Just find a new quarterback. I want to dump Dak because I don't want to pay him his $40 million. You guys, again, many of you don't want to pay him his $40 million. So where are these magical replacements? There's 3 places that you can look for the magical Dak replacement. Rizipped. That's a prick move. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never been called a prick before. Drafting a quarterback is a viable option. Riz, come sit in the front of the classroom and let me help you. Oken, Fish, when you say teams that haven't won a recent Super Bowl, you mean like Dallas? Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Where? So here's the three doors, just like on Let's Make a Deal. Door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. Fella says, just draft one. All right. You could have done that this year. The Cowboys could have tried to get involved in the NFL draft's 4th round run on quarterbacks this year. They liked Aiden O'Connell. So in that 4th round went Fresno State's Jake Haener, Georgia's Stetson Bennett IV, and Purdue's Aiden O'Connell. So you're right. They totally could have drafted a quarterback in the 4th round. Riz, I don't mean in the 4th round. What round do you mean? It's just you and me here now, son. What round do you mean? John Herbert, draft a good prospect at 24. They were gone at 26. They were gone. They were gone. You couldn't draft one at 26. They were gone. Frank Ostraka, how about Caleb Williams next year? Then you tank this year. There's some people that suspect that the Rams are thinking of doing that. Fargate, rookie quarterback, got it done with San Fran. That's right. It could be done. Wait a minute. Got what done? Farg, got what done? He didn't win a Super Bowl. He didn't even go to a Super Bowl. He didn't get it done. Not by Dallas Cowboys standards. Purdy, he didn't get it done. If somebody's really on here saying that that you wish they would have drafted Aiden O'Connell to take the place of Dak Prescott, you are a football moron. You can still be here, but you should really come sit in the front and quit throwing spitwads from the back. I'm asking you to separate your anger and disappointment because the Cowboys didn't win the Super Bowl again this year from the way you or anybody else would really run a football team. Just draft your replacement. And I gave you the 3 guys that you could draft in the 4th round, and you're going, draft one higher. You couldn't draft one higher. Draft one at 26. You couldn't draft one at 26. You would have had to draft Fresno State, Georgia, or Purdue. That's who you would have to draft. And then you have to plan on Aiden O'Connell from Purdue being better than Dak. That's your plan? Door number 2, Monty Hall. There's the scrap heap. Florio says, find a veteran starter. Okay. Carson Wentz. Now, by and large, you are a smart Cowboy fan. I'm going to tell you something I don't think not enough people understand. Carson Wentz's confidence is shot. Ethan, Ryan Leaf, Drew Henson, a lot of highly touted guys that don't make it. This is hard. It's hard to find a Jalen Hurts. It's hard to find a Dak Prescott, and it's impossible to find a Patrick Mahomes. And that's why there's only one of them. A.D. Clark, we got Dak haters twisting themselves into pretzels, trying to make up believable paths down a better road. It doesn't exist. I'm proving to you it doesn't exist. There's only 3 doors. 1, Aiden O'Connell. 2, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, Chase Daniel, Jake Luton. I had to go find that name. I don't even know who Jake Luton is. I just wanted to illustrate the ridiculousness of it to you. Joe Flacco's 39. Carson Wentz's confidence is shot. Matt Ryan, did you watch him last year? He retired because nobody wants him. Chase Daniel's 36. He's from Southlake. Chase Daniel's not better than Dak Prescott, and I don't know who Jake Luton is, and that's it. And then there's one more. There's one more avenue. Go. Why, Fish, why are you just getting these crappy guys? All right, fine. Let's go to avenue number 3. Why didn't the Cowboys sign Derek Carr? Riz, why didn't the Cowboys sign Derek Carr? You're trying to argue with me, but you're not responding to the discussion. I'm willing to have an adult discussion with you, and you're pulling out seventh grade limericks. Have a discussion with me. Big Buck, $5 pitch into the brief fund. That's a super chat set us forward by YouTube. People who think that DAK should be dropped are the same people who think that Jackson and Herbert deserve their payday, even though DAK's done just as much. Again, Justin Herbert's a good example. I think he's going to be tremendous. He hadn't done anything. Lamar Jackson did win an MVP, and I think he was like 14 when he won the league MVP. I'm not going to take that away from him, but he hasn't done the thing. Harold, $5 pitch in. I have to ask myself if there's some Cowboy fans who even get football or if they get spoiled. I will address this, having covered the Cowboys and been with you for 33 years. There's no question that Cowboy fans are spoiled. The incredible history here causes Cowboys Nation to think it's your birthright that your history continue to be incredible. And it's not your birthright. You don't just get to have that. And then there's the issue of, do Cowboy fans get football? Because there's more of us, that means there's more Cowboy fans than there are anything, right? That means there's going to be more tall Cowboy fans than there are tall fans of any other team. There's going to be more female Cowboy fans. There's going to be more fans that wear glasses. There's going to be more fans in wheelchairs. And yes, there's going to be more fans who don't completely understand what they're talking about. That's just the math of fandom. The percentage of smart fans for the Cowboys is higher. But the mass number of Cowboy fans who sometimes need to just calm down a minute and listen and learn, that number is bigger. Riz, I'm going to look for you and give you one more crack at it. I'm trying to treat you like an adult here, and you just won't do it. Craig, if we don't win 17 games, it's a failure. And if you look at football that way, it will be a failure. And if you look at building your quarterback room that way, that it's got to be 17 and up, it's not going to happen. Because you think this is a straw man argument? Go get Derek Carr. Rich, go get Derek Carr. Except the Raiders dumped him because they thought he's terrible. And then the Saints grabbed him. And guess what? Guess what the Saints paid Derek Carr? $38 million. Almost the same as you're paying DAK. And he was on the scrap heap. There's your 3 Monty Hall doors. Riz, I'm giving you the 3 options. Riz, are you too dense to get it, or are you just bullshitting me? Are you too dense to get this, or are you just trying to pull my chain? Who says Carr? I'm using examples. There's 3 examples. Riz, Jesus. 1, go find yourself. Go buy one. That's Carr. 2, go scrap heap one. That's Wentz. 3, go draft one. That's Aiden O'Connell. That's the 3 ways. That's it. There's 63,000 of you that are getting this. Riz, you have just taken over. Usually we only allow 3 slapdicks a night. Riz, you've been the number 1 slapdick, the number 2 slapdick, and the number 3 slapdick. Riz, you can trade into the top 5. That's enough for me. Fish out.